You're welcome back. It's still Good Morning Anambra right here on ABS TV this morning. And on Friday last week, we woke up to that notice that the governor of Central Bank of Nigeria, in the person of Godwin Emefiele, has been suspended. And then the reasons we heard about the suspension was that it was due to some investigation ongoing in that organization, and also the proposed reforms of the financial sector. So this morning we are here to talk about that and how it has affected Nigerians, the impact it has had on Nigeria. And I have my colleague seated right here with me this morning in the person of Ajulu Chukwokagwe. Ajulu.
Yeah, good morning, Ndibai. We'll definitely get to the root of this and then get to know. And then the phone lines are open for you to make your contributions so that we can definitely get to know what monetary policies are. And we have the gentleman and the gentle lady that will delve into this and give us topical issues out of it. Thank you.
Okay, quickly tell us the topic we are looking at. That's the economic implication for monetary policy in the country. And we have seated right here with us in the studio as guest this morning, we have Chukwunonso Ekesiobi. He's a lecturer, Department of Economics, Chukwuemeka Odumewu, Chukwu University, Iwari. I'm glad to have you on the show this morning.
Good morning. Good morning. Thank you as always.
And we also have Chief Ambassador Uche Ajulu Okeke. She's seated right here pretty in our studio this morning, and she is also the ambassador, Nemo Ambassador Uche Ajulu Okeke, Ada Ezumezu Obi Ndiodo Anambra, Anyanwu Abacha, former Ambassador Extraordinary, Distinguished Consul General of Nigeria to South Africa, and the SADC region based in Johannesburg, previously served in Brazil with concurrent accreditation to Paraguay and Bolivia, Belgium, Luxembourg, and the EU, among others. Glad to have you on the show this morning.
Thank you.
All right. Okay, Angelo, let's start with the topic we are looking at this morning.
Of course, sometimes when you begin to see think gods commanding our monetary policies like the CBN, and then you begin to, like the pictures that were being paraded on social media, how humble and humble the young man seemed. But when Nigerians were going through the crunch of the failed, in my own opinion, failed Naira policy, because nothing was as in the way it was planned out to be. Today, 200 Naira is in circulation. Next week, 500 Naira is withdrawn, 1,000 Naira withdrawn. So the whole thing is just it was looking like a sham to Nigerians. But now, with an incoming government, let us get to see how far, the trial of Emefiele and then the policies of our central bank is going to be on Nigerians. If it's going to go and probably alleviate the sufferings that we are suffering currently in the country, that's left for the people that have the powers to say. And then we have our lecturer here that will definitely get to tell us if actually what we experience in Nigeria is what is written in our books, in the act of the CBN, for Nigerians to suffer based on irregular policies, you understand, from our government.
All right, well said. Having said that, let's begin with you. When you heard the news, or where you saw the video, just like you described, seeing him, how he was taken from that burst inside the aircraft and taken to Abuja. I mean, what came to your mind?
Well, when I saw that video, in that clip, when it was trending, I just told myself that sadly I was expecting this particular day to arrive, and sadly it did for Emefiele. And why is that so? You know, under his leadership, personally, I find it strange that Emefiele had to come to this end, because if you look at how he came into the position as the governor of the central bank, coming in from Zenith, came with interesting credentials, and the Jonathan administration made him the central bank governor. And upon the expiration of the first tenure, the Buhari administration, a different government, a different party, reappointed him. So one would think that there's something interesting about this guy for him to have survived two different administrations. And for a very long time, we've not had any central bank governor enjoy that kind of opportunity. So I was expecting, okay, that things will continue to the party to stowing under his watch, because to give him credit, he started well as a central bank governor, because he came in and met a very distorted economy. So you found out that under his watch, the central bank was practically doing too much, in my opinion. Normally, the central bank is supposed to be concerned with the financial system, the regulation of the financial system, making it sound and stable. But he went beyond that and started having, several intervention policies, because he knows that monetary policy is not a standalone policy. While you are trying to address monetary policy issues, there may be other complications from other sectors that may thwart what you are trying to do. So in order to prevent those kind of distortions, he now started, assuming the responsibility of both the finance minister, the economic advisor, this and that. And you will not be surprised, because the last administration ran for 6 years without an economic advisor. So what do you expect? So he tried to do too much. That's why you saw the central bank in agriculture, in health, in education, and even, when I say education, not just in providing foreign exchange for those who want to travel abroad. At least the central bank has set up certain specialized centers. I think in Ahmadu Bello University, University of Nigeria, and University of Ibadan, where most of these courses they go abroad to do. You can take them in the country. Yes, fully sponsored by the central bank. You saw the central bank coming into health, sponsoring for pharmaceutical drug procurement and production in the country, especially during COVID. Even in entertainment, at a point, the central bank bought the National Theatre. So you see that he was doing a lot of things, and he's not supposed to be doing that ordinarily if the economy was well run. So I would say that he started off well. I will give him due credit. But somewhere along the line, I just don't know what happened, especially with that his unfortunate, or will I say miscalculated, attempt to enter into politics. And not just entering into politics, trying to justify why he should be the presidential, what do they call it again, presidential candidate of a particular party. So that exposed the central bank to this kind of political bias that it's not supposed to be. The central bank is supposed to be autonomous. It's a very serious institution. So when you expose the central bank operations to those kind of sentiments, it ridicules what they try to do, because anything they do henceforth, people will begin to seek for, trying to explain or trying to point at one political undertone or the likes. I want to give you an example. When the current governor of our state, Anambra, was the CBN governor, when he came up with the recapitalization of banks, nobody was asking him, he's a member of this, so he's a member of this party, or he's a member of that party. When Sanusi came up with the upscale of the financial sector by auditing those banks and the rest of them, nobody said he was this, nobody said he was. Even when Sanusi came up with that, what they call that thing again, Islamic banking, nobody accused him personally that. I mean, the discussion was more of objective discussion. It wasn't like he wants to Islamize the country. All those that is what the central bank should be. You discuss issues. But when you now come into those kind of considerations, which are not in line with why the central bank is set up, you see that you will run into this kind of problem. And unfortunately, like you mentioned, the redesign policy, you see that the current president was very, mad about it, very agitated about it. He was saying it vehemently. And it will not be surprising that somebody that has this kind of mindset about the policy, normally when he comes in, he will want to go after the person that did that policy. So if we look at Emefiele now, I've looked at the first half of how he did well. Now if you look at the second half, you see that certain other considerations now started to filter into the central bank operation. Because of that, you saw that most of our monetary policy indicators began to nosedive towards the tail end of his administration. For instance, the central bank is supposed to maintain monetary and financial price stability. What is price stability? Basically inflation, making it manageable. But where did he meet inflation? He met inflation at a single digit. Today, inflation is at an all-time high, 17 years high, or at 22.2%. And this is just a fallout of what maybe has happened with COVID. We have not factored in what has happened with the Naira redesign. We have not factored in inflation that will come up as a result of this subsidy that they have removed. So you see that inflation is going to be crazy. Then you look at another, this thing, maintaining external reserve. What is it? What is our external reserve like? We have been using that external reserve to subsidize a lot of things. Subsidize dollars, subsidize this. Sorry, please.
Go on and on and on. We have Ambassador right here in the studio. Now let's talk about the impact or the effect this has had. I mean, this economic implication on the masses, on the citizens of Nigeria.
Thank you very much. You know, the central bank cannot be insulated from the widespread political corruption in Nigeria, the systemic political corruption. Unfortunately, the Central Bank Act makes it mandatory for Emefiele to be independent and not to get involved in politics, to insulate himself. But he tried to please too many masters. He became an agriculture expert. At a point, he was supporting tomatoes and rice. And some of us didn't know again whether it was Naira or rice he was supposed to be doing. So that eroded legitimacy for the central bank as an unbiased umpire, just like INEC, something that we are supposed to look up to and say, no, 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 these people cannot be doing this. So the executive, by their own indiscipline and impunity, pulled and compromised the autonomy and the independence of the central bank. And unfortunately, Emefiele, being willing to serve too many masters, he was an overbearing, willing tool. He needn't, I don't think he would have lost his job if he said, no, I'm not going to run for political office, or if he said, no, I'm not going to do tomatoes and rice, or no, I'm not going to do interventions in health and agriculture. There are ministers with those portfolios. No, the central bank will not do this. But he began to run the country with his boss, albeit the president. And he meddled in too many waters. But the masses are affected because, number one, they lost legitimacy. The central bank has lost legitimacy. They will announce there are 1 trillion, or was it 3 trillion naira of unclaimed accounts without BVNs, or BVN without names, floating in the economy. 3 trillion naira. And the central bank is playing around with the judiciary. Oh, there's a court process stopping central bank from taking that money. Who initiated the court process? And how can central bank say that you gave a BVN and then you don't know who owns the money, and then the money is floating, some accounts without BVN, and then who are stopping the accounts using the courts? And why should the judiciary get involved in such nonsense? And why should the central bank even allow itself in this core thing of monetary policy, persons without BVN, the account should automatically revert back to the state? And they are still talking about it. Of course, that fizzled out and we never heard anything about it again. So the high level of political corruption, systemic political corruption, corroded legitimacy for Emefiele. And Emefiele is just a victim, he's a pawn in the game. Why only Emefiele? Why start with Emefiele? Why not start from the beginning? If Emefiele was sacked or suspended because he was moving funds, for who? Who are those funds being moved? Those are the power brokers. He's a pawn in the game. And I do not agree that selective punitive action is a way to cure Nigeria's endemic political corruption. Emefiele is simply a pawn in the game. And this has further shaken investor confidence in the country, because there is no way a foreign investor will bring his funds to a country where you are talking about the president is supposed to be the president is a drug dealer, the president is this, the court is that. Oh, they have thrown away the central bank governor. And then you want me to come and put my $2 billion in this country so that we...
Also, that there was a time Emefiele was also accused of funding
Terrorism.
Exactly. Exactly, you see. They said because he was dancing to the tune of his masters. He forgot that he is insulated by certain laws that can compel him to refuse the executive, to refuse executive directives and executive instructions. So he was funding terrorism directly by paying this and paying that. And it was because he got involved in non-fiscal sectors. That's why he got into that, fell into that misnomer. Non-fiscal sectors of the economy. He shouldn't have done that. And it's a minus for the masses because importers cannot import. Nigeria does not manufacture. The naira is nosediving. Inflation is high. So it's a minus for the masses. Businessmen are stretched to the limits. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Based on what you've said so far and then the impact on Nigerians, you understand? Don't you think there was a play for the executive and even the legislator to call even the Emefiele to order? Like being an ambassador, you definitely know what is obtainable in Stena Climes, irrespective of what happens here in Nigeria. So in your own opinion, what do you think should have happened in order for us to avert this mess we got ourselves in Emefiele's handling of our financial
Thank you.
matter?
The first thing that should have happened is that executive discipline. The executive should not involve the central bank and should not direct the central bank. Because what used to happen is if the presidency cannot get its way with this ministry or that government agency, they move to the central bank, bring the money for this and that. And they did a lot of extra budgetary directives to the central bank. So they said the National Assembly also failed in its role to draw the attention of the central bank to say, this is not your duty. What are you doing funding this and that? It's beyond you. It's not in the Central Bank Act. So it's also a failure on the part of the National Assembly in its judicial oversight of the central bank. They failed grossly in their duties. And it's also a pointer to executive indiscipline and impunity in directing the governor of the central bank to go beyond his mandate. I was shocked when he went to run for presidency under the APC. I thought he must have taken too much acetaminophen or something, you know.
Now, in the papers this morning, we saw where the NGX jumped to 15-year high. I mean, they were talking about the Emefiele suspension and also the gains to 1.215 trillion naira. I mean, it's looking good, yeah, but how do we sustain it?
It's unsustainable. Oh, sorry. It's unsustainable because the baseline is not there.
The market, these things are just temporary, like she said now, like Ambassador said, it's not sustainable. These are just temporary reactions of the market, but it's not a long-term thing because this euphoria, more or less, is like the market strangely is reacting positively to the dismissal of Emefiele. So that points to the fact that maybe the market was kind of confused with its own brand of monetary policy. Because, for instance, under him, you know, to get foreign exchange, like she rightly alluded to, was hell. And it's affecting, and it still continues to affect businesses. And again, you manage, in fact, we know that we have multiple exchange rate regimes in the country. Yes. Since past central bank governors. But under Emefiele, the gap between the official and the parallel was so high that it became profitable to deal in currencies. Yes. So they make these monies available to their cronies, their cabals and their friends, who he's trying to please. At a lesser rate now, and they go to the market and just do something. In fact,
turn it around.
That's part of the reason why this other guy, the former central bank, Emir, was dethroned. Because all this thing, he started shouting for a very long time. as soon as he left, that look at what these people are doing. Somebody just sits in the comfort of his home and becomes a millionaire overnight because you give him this exchange rate at the official rate, and he goes to the market. In fact, at the point, the gap between the two regimes was almost like over 300 naira. So it made sense to speculate on this foreign exchange. And again, like you rightly pointed out, I said it's not going to be sustainable again because we need to move beyond the damage that Emefiele has really dealt the central bank. There's no under normal circumstances, if you want to discuss policy, if the central bank, for instance, the time it proposed the, what do you call it, the Naira redesign, the legislature tried to perform its oversight by inviting him. But I know he shunned that invitation on several occasions. And what did they do to him? Nothing.
But can't we say on the part of the election, we should give him kudos, because we remember before the elections, Mahmoud, you understand, the INEC chairman, went to see him, and he assured him that whatever monetary logistics INEC would need in order for the election to hold on the 25th of February, that will be met. And he made that assurance, and then we had an election.
You know, there was something the ambassador alluded to earlier, that he meddled into a lot of things. What business does the central bank have with vote buying? We have EFCC, we have Code of Conduct, we have ICPC, we have all So what business does the CBN have with trying to prevent vote buying? That's overreaching your bounds. So the central bank governor, unfortunately, he overestimated his power. Maybe he felt that the masters he served earlier will come to his rescue, but he forgot that a time will come when the king that did not know Joseph will come into power and the Israelites will begin to suffer.
Exactly.
And that is what he's passing through now, because there is no way he can find succor. On the government side, on the political class, many of them don't take him seriously. The masses have turned their back, against it because of the hardship that we pass through. And,
we're still passing through.
We are still passing through. And, again, alluding to the success of that policy, where is the so-called new notes now? Have you seen them in circulation?
No. The old ones still...
So what happened to the money they used to finance the printing of that money?
It's so crumpled and cheap and old. You see, this money is not up to 6 months. Why is it looking like this? Or did they just erase the color from the old one and then put the new one on it? Some of it are so old, you wonder the quality of the paper used to print it. Must looks like something bought in Ochanja or something. It's crazy.
And we are told that they were about to print more of this new Naira notes. I mean, when we are undergoing those crises and people virtually sleeping in the banks just for them to get cash.
That was very, very unfortunate. Emefiele really failed it there, to allow fellow citizens to undergo that degree of hardship and to die in hospitals because they could not find money to pay their bills. That was one big minus for Emefiele. But I say again that his refusal to appear to the National Assembly was on the prompting of the presidency. Say, don't mind them, nothing will happen. It's a pointer to the degree, the very high degree of executive impunity and executive lawlessness that happened under the past administration. How dare the British Parliament invite a sitting minister and he does, and Prince King Charles say, don't mind them. That cannot happen. Even President Biden cannot do. Even Putin cannot afford to tell the Duma not to, don't mind them. Even in our own backyard in Johannesburg, you can't do that in Cape Town, the Parliament. You dare not do that. So how can a sitting National Assembly invite a governor, a functionary, a public servant, and he does not, he shows the degree of antipathy in public service, in public sector service in Nigeria. But I regard it as part of executive indiscipline, and I blame the presidency for that. Then Emefiele simply took a cue from his masters. and he forgot that the piper would change tune with the elections. He got carried away.
Well,
I still want to say something.
Okay.
You know, still on the, the executive rascality we have in this country. For instance, this idea of using ways and means to finance the budget, especially when there's a deficit, revenue deficit, it is there in the CBN Act that you should not exceed 5% of the previous year's revenue. Emefiele exceeded it by over 200%. Now, ways and means is about 20-something trillion. These monies are just monies that, let's just take it that these are monies that were created artificially. You just print money and you give to the government. So, so it turned to the ATM. The government's ATM. Anytime they need money, you make it available. You, as the, it shows that there is ethical and professional, indiscipline and disregard on the part of Emefiele, not to even obey what is stipulated in the CBN Act.
The Act.
The Act itself that he is supposed to, guard
us. Yeah.
So now, the National Assembly, instead of calling these guys to order, has now tried to say, let us securitize it. What are you trying to securitize? For heaven's sake, these monies were brought out, were injected into the economy illegitimately. And this thing is also part of, I keep saying it, it's also part of the reason why we are having this kind of record inflation. Because basic secondary school economics will tell you that inflation is when too much money is chasing few goods. You just created over 22 trillion and you are complaining. And again, he said that, contradicting himself, he said that one of the reasons why we had this Naira design was because we had too much money outside the banking sector, running into trillions. How would that money operate in the system? You created money and gave it to guys through the back door, and you expect that money to be in the system.
Give the money to politicians,
and you expect that money to be in the system. And you now come up, when you wake up one day and you act surprised that, wow, so we have too much money operating outside the financial system. That's why terrorism is on the high side. That's why this is this. We need to mop it. That's why Nigerians will suffer.
Okay, still talking about the Naira that was outside the bank vault. First of all, let's come back to you. Now, does it mean that it was so difficult for the CBN to actually give account of how much they have? And then even when they printed the new Naira notes, they found it difficult to even tell Nigerians the exact amounts they have printed. It was very difficult for them. Now they told us they mocked about so amount of money. And then we still had the old currency in circulation. What then is the responsibility of the CBN?
That shows you the degree of leakage and systemic corruption that goes on in Nigeria. It's not only the CBN that prints money. There's a huge syndicate of money printing at very high political levels that goes on in Nigeria. And the presidency and the CBN, they know about it and nothing happens. So politicians print money, the CBN mints money. And so remember also that Nigeria has a very, very high and strong informal sector in the economy. So there is no way, the government does not have the regulatory base because it is a failed economy and a failed government. The government does not have the regulatory base to absorb or to statisticize the workings and dynamics of the informal economy. They don't know it. They don't have data on the informal economy, the informal sector. So the leakages are, they're there. And they continue to be there, and they're still there. And just like Dr. Nonso said, when Naira is recycled in foreign exchange trading, which is aided and abetted by the central bank and the executive, they don't even use it to build factories, to manufacture, to create jobs. They recycle it into an import-dependent economy. And so it's a cycle, and it cannot stop because government has no control of its informal sector. Government has no data on its informal sector. Government does not know the workings of the dynamics of the market economy at very low informal sectors.
Will the bet of Dangote's refinery be a plus to Emefiele based on the fact of the implication of Nigerian monetary policy that now our refineries will no longer be going abroad. I mean, our crew will no longer be going abroad for refining, rather it to be done here. And since Dangote himself said without Emefiele, this project wouldn't have seen the light. Wouldn't that be a kudos to this young man?
Well, to an extent, yes. He was present at the commissioning. But again, he got to. I liked, the storyline. But what got me, concerned again was when he mentioned that 70% of the money that was used to
build the refinery has been
paid. On what grounds are you making that kind of statement there? As what? Are you
a refinery that has not even dropped a liter of oil?
They are looking at end of July, but I'm seeing it going beyond that end of July. What prompted that?
And why should it be the private refinery?
Why should it be private refinery?
That's another point. What happened to the government refinery?
It will save us some, forex that we lose when we pay for this refined product, no doubt. But I would have been impressed if the CBN took it upon itself, since it was virtually doing everything, to say, okay, let us take out the responsibility of resuscitating our existing refineries.
Dr. Nonso, have you asked now that 98% or over 90% of the employees of the Dangote refinery are Indians and non-Nigerians, and over 90% of the government, derelict, dilapidated government refineries are Nigerian nationals? Have you asked the impact on human capital development that the Dangote refinery, emerging Dangote refinery, has on Nigerian employment sector and on employability of Nigerians? Where does the Nigerian stand? To what degree has Nigeria been mortgaged to Indians and Filipinos and
I will be into consideration before.
Why are Nigerians not being employed?
I will give of Nigerians that should have been employed.
There's no Nigerians there.
Let's say 29,000 Nigerians.
There are more than 300,000 foreigners there.
I will give it to them in terms of the packaging of the communication.
Is it, wait, 29,000 Nigerians, is it trailer drivers or the real engineers?
So why I will give it to them is during the marketing of the projects, you see that those who are giving descriptions of what is going on at every phase of the refinery were actually Nigerians. I just got to the point where maybe at the management level you now saw most of these foreigners. But
why?
That's the thing. So there are a lot of things that are going wrong in this country because, for instance, when you have this kind of investments, there should be specification, provision made for employment of your local, personnel. That Nigerians should have, enjoy certain privileges.
I think I read that 29,000 was what I said.
Yeah.
You have to know the category of the security men and the megads.
It is said that it will generate both direct and indirect jobs. Yeah. Fine, but she is now looking at the quality of those jobs. Are you doing the technical stuff, or are you doing the management, administrative stuff, or you are just
the answer to that question could be because we've been taking our crude oil outside the country to refine. Maybe we need to bring these foreigners to tell us the new mode of refining.
Remember that this other guy.
You mean that Port Harcourt and Kaduna and Warri refinery, they were not refining the oil because they were...
They are going to be
they are stuck in perennial turnaround maintenance.
Everyday turnaround maintenance. Okay, let me ask you, Dr. Nonso. Okay. Does the new Dangote refinery give Nigerians a sense of national pride? Has it given?
Yeah, well, we will want to take it by, as will I say, affiliation, or as part of our own, that somebody
don't dance around the answer.
A Nigerian can come up with, virtually the largest refinery in the world.
No, it has not.
It's still a private business, whether you like it or not. That's what I was trying to point. It's still a private business. It provided that and again, for now, there are conspiracy theories that say that, the essence of this whole thing, that Dangote hurriedly commissioning this refinery when it's not ready, the removal of subsidy, and so on and so forth, is to practically hand over this economy to just one man. And the federal government has gone behind and said, we have bought 20% stake in the refinery, what business do you have buying stake in the refinery when you have your that is not going? And there's another thing I want to point out. This issue of exchange rate is still very key. There was an interesting policy. Emefiele came up with this currency swap between the Nigerian government and the Chinese, such that we don't because China is our largest trading partner, so we don't need to start going through getting the dollar, the exchange rate dynamics before we get to purchase for them. So rather, when we take the naira for the yuan, it will cut off those transaction and conversion costs involved, so we can get things cheaper. So that policy, till today, I'm still waiting for what happened to that policy. It didn't. So yeah, that would have crashed. That would have crashed the price of everything.
Who are struggling to get dollars before they can go to China, it didn't see the light of day.
All right, we'll continue with that discussion right here in the studio this morning, but we are going to take you to our street walk. We have interviewed some people concerning this particular topic that we are looking into this morning, and let's hear what they have to say.
The economy as it stands now, if you check everything in our ramification, absolutely poor. Think about the dollar exchange. How much is dollar now? Compare it before 2015. The fact speaks for itself. Check about Gare, foodstuffs, and the rest of them. How much is being sold now? If you think about it, you see that certainly that it's better to have a change, but in a more legalized manner. There must be approval vis-a-vis by both the State House, by the Federal House and the National Assembly. That is to say the House of Rep and the House of Senate. It is only when these two houses, consent to it that Emefiele and the federal government can then get loan from a foreign country. So that one is a continuous process. But with respect to the new Naira note which he has initiated, I think that one is there on arrival. It's as good as not doing it, because many people, suffered tremendously. Many people suffered so much. The Naira was not available. The Naira, in fact, many people equally died in the course of, getting this Naira. You understand? It subjected many people to abject poverty. So at the end of the day, you can ask yourself, and your guess may be as good as mine, what is the effect as we speak today? I look at it as an exercise in futility. Something you started and it never ended well. At the end of the day, we are still eating the old Naira notes. So you ask yourself, what is the effect? So you find out that, to me, the economy is bad already under his watch.
Everything depends on the current administration. And so the current administration should do well. And currently, we have the deputy governor, the corporation manager of CBN that's currently working. So everything depends on the policy put together for the running of this country. So if we have effective policies, financial policies put together, I don't think the SAC will be a problem on our financial. Government is continuity, and there's what we call transition. So even if you are leaving office today, no matter what you are doing, I think you can still hand over everything you have to the next person. So I don't think its suspension will have a lot to affect our economic policy. So I feel if it's suspended, everything about the formal policy will be handed over to the current and acting CBN government. So it won't affect the
Definitely is going to have a very, very serious economic impact on our monetary policy, especially how the international community will view us, and whether we are a very serious country or not in terms of investments. You understand me? Now they came up with a Naira design, which to people like me, I upheld it because our currency, our Naira, is overdue for redesign. That was a policy I think was a good one. Unfortunately, I don't know about it. The implementation may not have gone as expected, probably. So I think that was a good policy, but the implementation wasn't properly. And people went through different, tried to leave then. And then this government came in and said that policy will be looked at again. You understand me? So the international community will look at us as moving forward and moving backward. So, and nobody would like to do business with somebody who is moving forward and moving backward. So seriously, I think it has something to do with it. Will not be very so well with our economic policies and our monetary policy.
Yeah, we've heard much of what Nigerians in their number have said about the monetary policy of Emefiele and how it affected masses, the hardship, untold hardship Nigerians underwent during that period. Well, we're still in the studio where we're talking about the effect of his sack, or will I say his suspension, and the implication on the monetary policy in our country. Also, we are talking about economics. Economics is universal, you understand? What is obtainable in Ireland should be obtainable when you follow the economic tools in play. So what would you say went wrong with the money redesign policy? What was it? Was it that the time frame was too short, or was it that the government were targeting, you understand, vote buying like they said? Then what do you think they would have done that would have alleviated the torture, the sufferings Nigerians went through?
Well, first and foremost, I felt that it was not properly thought through. Because the central bank is one institution that has a collection of brilliant economists in Nigeria. So, is it that the political influence is overriding the decision making at that place? Because I find it difficult to understand why. Because we've been having currency redesign.
Yeah, redesign.
The most recent, that of the 100 Naira note, when we celebrated the centenary anniversary of Nigeria. So that one went through without a fuss, and they withdrew it. And so why did this one just come as if it came all of a sudden? And everybody just chaotic and not trying to communicate these things well enough. And you mentioned that you were going to provide measures to alleviate or to cushion the effect of these things.
And to even make it go down to the rural areas.
But you found out that even the alternative payment platforms like this transfers, mobile money, APA, POS, ATM, those things, they crashed because they could not handle the volume of transactions that came in overnight. So all these things, you should have told these people to expand, for instance, their existing IT infrastructure so that they can cope with whatever it is that is coming. You see, this country will just wake up one day. It's just like I saw in your newspaper review where you said something about the Nigerian Population Commission saying that this census, if it doesn't hold this year, forget it. So did you just wake up one day? You planned to have the census. Then somewhere along the line, you just postponed it like that. You said that there was no money. Don't you know that you need money to conduct census? So, trying to place the cart before the horse.
Okay. Just like you said earlier that Emefiele actually started well. But then what happened along the line? That's the question we are asking now. Meaning that he allowed himself to be influenced by the executive. Yes. I mean, because now we saw a report on Daily Trust where a whistleblower was actually saying that he got detained for 100 days because he tried to expose the forest scam.
Yes. Who was behind them? Who are behind the forest scam? You see, so it's executive impunity and he became a willing tool for executive impunity. If he had insisted on the autonomy of the central bank and stood his ground, it's difficult, yes, when you tell your boss no, but you have to have the strength of character to tell your boss no, especially when you know, number one, you're doing the right thing, number two, you are within the confines of law.
So he wasn't a saint after all?
Yes, he didn't have
somewhere along the line
he lost it.
Because especially towards his reappointment, I felt that he gave away many things
to be reappointed.
To be reappointed. Yeah. I personally was surprised that he was reappointed because I was like, there's nothing so fantastic about this guy. Even Sanusi was far better.
What about our own Soludo solution?
I don't even want to go there
because would not have allowed. He would not have agreed to this kind. Is he not the one that recapitalized the bank
and stood his ground?
And stood his ground. And remember, there were powers and movers and shakers in the time of the recapitalization. And he matched them. He said no, and no was no, because he was within his limits. He was within the confines of law, and the banking sector had to bend.
In fact,
so that was the strength of character required by a top-notch, independent executive
professional
who knew his onions. When I don't know what background Emefiele has in banking, actually, whether he's a core professor of economics.
No.
You know, I don't know whether he has
banking and finance, University of Nigeria.
Didn't I hear that Anambra State, was it which university banned banking and finance? There's a university that says they're no more studying it because they can't make sense out of it. They don't know whether it is accountancy or whether it is economics. There's a university, I think Anambra State University, right?
No, we have it too.
Do you still have it?
Yes.
Or was it in Nnamdi Azikiwe? There's a university that was quarreling with that banking and finance thing.
I think I saw that.
I saw it somewhere. They couldn't just make sense of it. It was not called this. It was not called that. It was a mishmash. So it was a mishmash that then it calls to question, because Soludo solution could not have gone.
So at the end of the day, we are now agreeing that it's better for an economist to
that is where I'm coming. Now, look, there are some positions you don't set aside as the job for the boys
or
you
compensation
for political allies and the rest of it. No, the central bank is one of those institutions where professionalism,
competence.
Yeah, you have
merit.
to bring
it's not like quota system.
A core professional,
yes.
Not an armchair economist. It has to be somebody who is grounded in these macroeconomic fundamentals. That is why when you have the square peg in the square hole, when Soludo was the central bank governor.
But no, so these guys are appointed. So when your boss says he wants this, won't you tell your boss that?
That is where political will comes in. That we are giving Soludo credit is partly due to the leverage he enjoyed from the serving president Obasanjo. And that is the same leverage people like the late Dora Akunyili, God bless her soul, enjoyed. Because it's not as if the president could not call Dora then and say, allow these guys bring in their jobs or open this market you have shut for months.
But remember that those goodwills were enjoyed because of the strength of character,
the strength of yes.
the ability to
in the selection of your appointees for this delicate job, like Okonjo-Iweala, where they mastermind that debt relief we enjoy then. When these people come to discuss, they discuss economics, they discuss policy, they discuss core issues. But unfortunately, I don't know whether is it that we don't have. Or this, they are not aware. In fact, I'm not even surprised.
Do you know how many times Okonjo-Iweala said no to Jonathan? We cannot do this.
We cannot do this.
So it's not just about a professional.
If you read that her book, Fighting Corruption is Dangerous,
and say that this should
not happen. And it will be, even if it costs you your appointment, so to say, you leave. But at least it is clear that you stood for the right thing. So the job of the central bank governor, like some persons are already alluding to the fact that this acting CBN governor is this, is that, is it because he's the Obama, is he the most senior among the deputy governors, and so on and so forth. This kind of considerations should not come in a place like the central bank, the Federal Inland Revenue, FIRS, these institutions are very key.
Yeah, but that's what the last administration forced.
But strangely enough, you will not be surprised why we have this kind of rubbish. Because a serving senator, or the outgoing senator, Bukachiwa, that told us openly, brazenly, that he had to, influence or encroach in the operations of the wife, who happened to be the head of the Court of Appeal, to get favors, even for his friends. So what do you expect? when you put those kind of people, give those kind of considerations, against the ethics of that institution, then you have messed up everything.
I think we should just agree.
They will begin to review most of the judgments that happened during that woman's administration. I'm very serious. They will begin to review most of them. Because so it means that you saw justice on the platter.
They are very careless with
well, that's the impunity now. That's the impunity we are talking about.
That's what I'm saying, that we have to agree here that Emefiele is a selective victim of political corruption.
Okay, now that Emefiele has been suspended, we don't know what is going to happen because the investigation is still ongoing. And then if we are talking about the proposed reform in the financial sector, what are we to expect as Nigerians in that organization, talking about CBN?
Well, the board of the CBN is the one that has the authority to terminate the appointment of the governor. The president may have to continue the suspension until the tenure expires.
No, according to what I read on the CBN, they say that the president, when you have 2/3
of the Senate,
he can actually tell him to go.
Well, that is I'm sure with the way he's standing on one foot in his presidency, he may not want to enter that political brouhaha of wanting to suspend Emefiele. And if he goes that route, and Emefiele decides to open the can of worms, I'm not sure the president himself will be exonerated. So I think he may just leave the suspension like that until, and of course allow the current acting governor to, stabilize and mop up things. If he goes the route of getting the board to suspend Emefiele, he might unearth a lot of things that we don't know where.
But I want to ask them, or I want to say, see, that's why sometimes it's advisable to bring the central bank governor from outside, that's in terms of appointments.
As in foreign?
No, when I mean outside the system, outside the CBN. Why am I saying this? You are bringing Emefiele. Definitely, the central bank is not like a command system where once Emefiele says something, everybody just like zombies begin to implement. These deputy governors, directors, and the rest, you have the central bank. Most of them will have been part and parcel to what this Emefiele has been doing. So you are removing Emefiele and you are bringing somebody who was part of the system that you are trying to investigate. How are you sure, and reform, how are you sure that that person was not part and parcel of what
That's why it is selective vendetta.
Emefiele was doing. How are you sure that this guy now that is acting this was not part of what was going on?
Emefiele is a victim of selective.
Now, to get it right, you are now suggesting that it's okay to bring somebody from outside.
That's how we got Soludo. That's how we got Sanusi. Yeah, bring somebody from outside, but please let this be an economist this time around.
Thoroughbred economist.
Thoroughbred economist.
Quickly before the want of time, what should Nigerians be expecting in this fallout with the CBN governor and the present administration? What way forward? Quickly, before we wrap up. Ajulu.
Well, there is a lot of ways forward. The system is too topsy-turvy. We should just expect that there should be more currency. Let them make currency available at all levels and all notes. Let them not foist 200 naira or 500 naira notes, and let them be decent quality of notes. There are some crumpled notes that you don't know what denominations they are because they're already too black. You can't even.
You should know the limit of your power. It's not in the office of the president to make such pronouncement to determine interest rates. No, the central bank monetary policy committee, made up of both internal and external members, come in to deliberate on these things every 2 months. So he should leave that decision to these people, because these people study the economy and adjust interest rate in a way that we cope with current realities.
Maybe the president was speaking on the fact that he's an accountant. Well, on that note,
can we urge that the executive allow enhanced autonomy in the central bank as we go forward?
All right.
Of course, that's what we are praying for.
Well, on that note, I want to say a very big thank you to both of you for joining us today. Thank you, Chukwunonso Ekesu, lecturer with the Department of Economics, Chukwemeka University, Mariam. Thank you for being here this morning.
You're welcome.
And also to Chief Ambassador Uche Ajulu Okeke. She's also Nemo Ambassador Uche Ajulu Okeke. Adezubezu Ubina Onu, whatever. Thank you so much for being part of the show this morning.
Thank you.
Well, that's it for us. From here, we would say thank you so much for joining us on this morning's Breakfast TV show on ABS. My name is Chidima Oranwa. See you again tomorrow.
And I'm Ajulu Chukwu Okabwe saying thanks for being with us.